You ever heard of Route 191 in Arizona? Probably not. Not unless you're a long hauler like me or a local with a death wish. It's not the kind of road you take by accident. It's the kind that finds you when you've got nowhere else to go, when you're running low on gas, out of options, and something whispers from the desert, offering a shortcut that never should have been on the map. They call it the Devil's Highway for a reason. I didn't believe in that kind of stuff. I used to laugh at truck stop legends and old-timers spinning tales about phantom hitchhikers and eyes in the sand. That changed last Tuesday when I got a special dispatch from a company I'd never heard of, offering double the rate to haul a locked, unmarked container across Route 191. No questions asked. Just follow the instructions in the black envelope that came with the key. It was slick, sealed with wax, and had only 2 words written on the front in silver ink. Follow exactly. That should have been the first red flag, but I was broke, 2 months behind on rent, and my truck was 1 missed payment away from being repossessed. I broke the seal. Inside were 6 rules, typed out in courier font on what looked like old typewriter paper. Each rule was short, weird, and precise. Rule 1, you must enter Route 191 between 11:57 p.m. and 12:03 a.m. Rule 2, do not exceed 47 miles per hour between mile markers 221 and 213. Rule 3, if you see a gas station with red neon lights between 198 and 187, 188, do not stop, no matter what. Rule 4, between markers 177 and 173, a woman in white may appear on the side of the road. Keep your eyes forward. Do not speak to her. Do not acknowledge her. Rule 5, at mile marker 166, you'll see a second sun in the sky. Do not react. Do not stop. Do not pray. Rule 6, when the radio cuts to static, count to 7 slowly. If the static continues after 7, turn off the radio and recite the phrase, "I am only passing through," until it ends. The note ended with, "Failure to follow these instructions will result in termination of the contract, and possibly more." I wanted to laugh. I really did. But the pay was good, and deep down, I guess I wanted to prove something to myself. That fear is just a trick of the mind. That horror stories are just road trip fuel for insomniacs and conspiracy junkies. So I fueled up, locked the container, and drove toward Route 191, the Devil's Highway, where asphalt stretches like a black ribbon over bone-white sand, and the air hums like a dying engine. Midnight was coming. I checked my watch, 11:55 p.m. The entrance was 2 miles out. My hands tightened around the wheel. The air felt heavier. I swear I could hear whispers in the wind, just low enough that they sounded like a warning, or a prayer, or both. The road ahead looked darker than the desert around it, like it absorbed light. I crossed the threshold at 11:59 p.m. As soon as I did, the temperature dropped inside the cab, my breath fogging the windshield even though the desert outside still simmered with heat. I passed mile marker 221. The engine began to hum lower, like it recognized the place and didn't want to be here. The needle dipped to 47, then held steady like something unseen had taken over the cruise control. Between 221 and 213, the darkness outside grew thicker. Not just night, this was something else. The kind of dark that makes you feel like your own reflection is about to betray you. I saw movement in the corners of my vision. Long, low shapes crawling across the road like snakes made of ash. My headlights flickered. I gritted my teeth and stayed at 47. A voice whispered my name from the sleeper cab behind me. I didn't turn. I didn't answer. I remembered Rule 2. At 2:13, the hum stopped, and just like that, the dark lightened back to normal. I exhaled, only to suck in air again as I saw it. A gas station off to the left, lights glowing red like the eyes of a predator in the dark. There was someone standing outside it, waving. They looked like my dad. He died 3 years ago. I kept driving. I didn't slow down. I didn't blink. I didn't let that memory claw its way in. Mile marker 198 to 188 passed like a blur, and the gas station faded behind me. Then came the worst part. Marker 177. The road narrowed. A white figure appeared ahead. No face, just a veil, just skin glowing like moonlight. She stood inches from the edge of the asphalt, and for a moment, I thought she was going to step out, block my way, force me to stop, force me to break the rules. But she didn't. She just turned her head slowly, following my truck as I passed. My hands were shaking, eyes fixed forward. She whispered something I didn't understand. I didn't respond. I didn't even breathe. She vanished behind me like smoke in a headwind. And then, at 166, the sky brightened. A second sun rose in the distance, high and burning like an eye watching everything. It cast no shadow. The real sun was long gone behind the mountains. This one was wrong. I didn't react. I didn't stop. I didn't even pray. I kept driving. And when the radio cut to static, just like the note warned, I counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still static. I turned off the radio, my voice cracking as I muttered, "I am only passing through," again and again, until the silence returned like a hand pulling me out of deep water. And now I'm here, pulled off just before the next stretch, writing this down, because the black envelope said I'd need to remember everything before I can finish the job. And because I know this story isn't over. If you've made it this far, don't forget this route. Don't forget these rules. There's more coming, and I need you to stay with me to the very end. Keep watching, keep listening, and whatever you do, don't close the video until I tell you it's safe. And if you're still alive by the end, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment saying, "I saw the second sun." It'll be our little secret. I thought surviving the first leg of the journey meant I'd pass some kind of test. But Route 191 doesn't test you. It breaks you down slow, piece by piece, and what it gives in return is not peace or reward, but a deeper kind of darkness, the kind that wraps itself around your spine and whispers that you've already gone too far to turn back. I kept driving past mile marker 166, and for a few miles it was almost peaceful. Just empty desert on either side, no traffic, no wind, the rhythmic drone of my tires eating up the highway. But I knew that kind of peace is just bait, the kind of silence that waits to be broken by something you'll never be ready for. And sure enough, the next thing came around marker 158, when a billboard appeared on the side of the road that hadn't been there before. It was hand-painted with peeling red paint, and the words looked like they'd been smeared by trembling hands. "Do not speak to him." And beneath those words was a drawing of a face, but something was wrong with it. The features were all blurred, like someone had smeared the paint while it was still wet, and the eyes had no pupils, just black circles that followed me as I drove past. I gripped the wheel tighter and looked away. But then, a mile later, I saw someone standing on the shoulder, thumb out like a hitchhiker, and that would have been creepy enough. But what made my stomach twist was what he was wearing. It wasn't a mask, but a sheet of paper over his face. Paper thin and bone white, and it had a face drawn on it with red ink. The same face from the billboard. I didn't stop, obviously, but I couldn't stop looking at him in the mirror. He didn't move, didn't blink, didn't wave, just stood there, watching. And then the paper twitched, rippled in the breeze like skin, and his head snapped toward me as I passed, and I swear to you I could hear the sound of paper tearing from inside my cab even though the windows were closed. I tried to focus forward, but every few seconds, I felt like he was closer behind me even though there was no car or truck back there. Just an empty stretch of black asphalt and stars. Around mile marker 150. I heard something tapping on the sleeper cab window, soft and regular like fingers, or maybe the ends of nails, and I didn't want to look. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced into the mirror just for a second, and I wish I hadn't. There was a shape back there, small and pale and wrong, with a paper face pressed against the glass, smiling wide in red ink like a child had drawn it too fast and too hard, and I slammed the cab's sliding window shut and locked it, even though I knew that wouldn't do a damn thing if he really wanted in. But when I looked again, he was gone. Just gone. No sound. No footprints. Nothing but the growing sense that I'd just broken another rule, even if I hadn't read it yet. By acknowledging him, by noticing the paper, I'd let something in, and now it was going to follow me. The radio crackled again, not static this time, but a slow rustling sound like dry leaves or pages turning in a still room, and a voice whispered faintly through the speakers in a tone too calm to be natural. It said, "You've seen the face, haven't you?" And I froze because it wasn't a question. It was a statement, a confirmation that something was watching me now, from beyond the boundaries of the desert. And I turned the dial hard, killed the sound, and muttered the phrase from Rule 6 just in case. "I am only passing through. I am only passing through. I am only passing through." And after a minute, the radio went silent again. Around marker 142. The moon vanished, like someone had turned it off. No clouds, no eclipse, just gone. The stars blinked out one by one until the sky was blacker than pitch, and the only light came from my headlights. Even that seemed dimmer, like the road itself was sucking up the light. I was sweating now, my fingers numb on the steering wheel, trying to focus on the white lines, even though they were starting to curve when they shouldn't, spiraling in and out of each other like they wanted to lead me somewhere off the map. And then just ahead, I saw it again. The billboard. The same one. "Do not speak to him." Only this time the letters were dripping. Not paint, but something darker, thicker. Something that looked a lot like blood. And underneath, someone had scrawled a new line in black. "Too late." And that was when I realized I was in something deeper than just a cursed road. This wasn't just about following the rules. This was about being chosen, about being watched, about something ancient using this highway as a gate, a passage, a test, a trap. Whatever it is, I know now that each rule isn't just a warning. It's a chain keeping something in place, and every time someone breaks a rule, that chain loosens just a bit more. And the thing with the paper face, it's the first part, the scout, the echo of something worse. And now that I've seen him, I can't unsee him. And I don't think he's done with me yet. The road had changed. It no longer felt like a highway through Arizona, but something older. Something that remembered pain and fed on it. The asphalt beneath my tires pulsed like it had veins, and I swear I felt the vibrations, not just in the wheel, but in my chest, like a second heartbeat, not mine, and the temperature had dropped so low I could see frost curling on the inside of my windshield, like icy fingers tracing invisible runes. I turned on the heater, but it blew nothing but dust and the smell of copper like dried blood and rotted iron. And that was when I saw the next sign. No words, just a shape carved into rusted metal. A spiral twisting inward over and over until my eyes burned from looking at it too long. And something deep in my gut screamed at me not to blink, not to lose sight of the road no matter what. The darkness around me had grown thicker like it had mass and weight, pressing in on all sides. And then the road began to scream. Not my tires, not the wind, but the road itself. A deep vibrating howl that rose from the pavement and filled my cab like a choir of tortured voices buried just beneath the surface. I gritted my teeth, but it got louder. The windows shook, the mirrors trembled, the steering wheel twitched like it wanted to turn on its own. And through that awful chorus I heard them. Whispers layered beneath the screaming like insects crawling over my brain. They said, "You're not supposed to be here. And he sees you now." And then the windshield fogged over completely from the inside, but instead of frost or condensation, it was writing. Finger marks dragging across the glass from nowhere, forming words in a language I didn't know but somehow understood. Something like, "The spiral opens when you break, and don't feed it your fear, or it will feed on your skin." And then just like that, it all stopped. The sound, the cold, the writing, everything, like someone flipped a switch, and I was left in dead silence with my own pulse pounding like war drums. And then I saw her again, the woman in white. Only this time she wasn't standing still. She was walking alongside my truck, matching my speed perfectly, even though I was going over 50 now, and the gravel beneath her bare feet didn't even shift. She was gliding, floating, her veil whipping in a wind I couldn't feel, and her head turned slowly toward me, revealing nothing but darkness behind the veil, a pit of moving shadows like worms in a well. And she raised her hand and pointed directly at me. And for just a moment, I heard a baby crying, weak and desperate, and impossibly close, like it was under my seat, and my hands started to move, started to steer toward her, and I couldn't stop them. I couldn't stop myself. I bit down on my own tongue hard enough to bleed, and that pain snapped me out of it just enough to wrench the wheel back to center. The truck swerved hard and the tires screamed, but I kept it steady, and the moment I looked forward again, she was gone. No trace, just the empty road and the scent of something burning. And then I heard a knock on the passenger window. 3 slow knocks, rhythmic, steady, like someone trying to be let in. And I didn't look. I didn't move. I knew better now. I remembered the rules. I remembered what happens when you acknowledge them. And the knocking stopped, only to start again on the driver's side. Closer this time. Heavier, like knuckles made of bone. And that's when the laughter started. Childlike and broken, like a music box, winding down, echoing from every direction at once and filling my ears with pressure like I was going underwater. And then a voice whispered from the radio, even though it was off. "You're going the wrong way." And, "Turn around or it will wear your face." And then louder, "Turn around or it will wear your face." And I screamed back at it, "No," because somehow I knew that was the test. That was what it wanted. Panic, doubt, weakness. Because once you stop on Route 191, you're not in control anymore. And I kept going, mile after mile, the signs getting stranger, more symbols, spirals, and eyes and mouths with too many teeth. And I realized this route wasn't just haunted. It was alive, a living thing pretending to be a road. And the rules weren't just warnings. They were bargains, tolls. Keep moving and pay your fear like blood, and maybe, just maybe, it'll let you out the other side. And as I passed mile marker 127, the world bent sideways for a second. My headlights stretched like shadows in water, and the horizon shifted like a giant had breathed beneath the crust of the earth. And something told me next time I wouldn't be able to hold the wheel straight, that whatever was on this road had seen me flinch, and it liked what it saw. I hadn't read Rule 7 before. I didn't even know there was one, until I found it burned into the fabric of my passenger seat. Letters scorched into the cloth like someone had pressed them there with a branding iron. It said, "Do not stop, even if the road is gone." My heart dropped when I read it, because that meant at some point the road was going to vanish beneath me, and I'd have to keep going anyway, even if it meant driving into nothing, into whatever waited where the pavement ended, and reality bled into something else, something that made the man with the paper face look like a warm-up act. I passed mile marker 119, and the headlights dimmed again. Not from the battery or the bulbs, but like something invisible had sucked the light out of the beams. And for a split second, I saw dozens of figures standing in the distance on both sides of the road. Just silhouettes at first. But as I got closer, I could see that they weren't people. They were mannequins, cracked and scorched and eyeless, wearing name tags with names I somehow recognized. Names of drivers who'd vanished in this part of the country. People I'd seen on missing posters at truck stops over the years. And as I passed them, their heads turned to follow me even though their bodies didn't move. The sound of twisting plastic filled the night, and one of them raised a hand and pointed behind me. I didn't want to look, but the rearview mirror tilted on its own, and what I saw made me lose control of my breath. There was no road behind me, just a long tunnel of black mist curling in slow motion. and something moved inside it, slow and massive, like the belly of a whale dragging along the desert, and 1,000 faint voices echoed from it, whispering in unison. Feed it fear, or feed it flesh. And I looked forward again, only to find the road ahead was gone, just like the rules said, like someone had peeled the asphalt away in a single strip and tossed it into the void. Now it was just flat black emptiness stretching out ahead. And I knew the rules said not to stop. I knew stopping meant it caught you, whatever it was. So I closed my eyes, pressed the pedal down, and drove forward into the dark. The tires made no sound, no resistance. It was like driving on air or the surface of a nightmare. And for 10 full seconds, I couldn't breathe because the truck wasn't touching anything. I was floating, flying, or maybe falling. And in that space, I heard something breathing with me, mimicking every gasp and twitch, its voice brushing against my skin like cold feathers, whispering words I wasn't supposed to hear. You brought it with you. It's wearing your name. And you left part of yourself back there, and it's still watching. I opened my eyes to find the road had returned beneath me, but it wasn't the same. The lines were drawn in ash now, the signs made of meat and bone, and there were no stars in the sky anymore. Just one huge red eye watching from above, like a blood moon that blinked slowly and deliberately. Every time I doubted my direction, I passed a gas station that hadn't been there before, half sunken into the dirt, lights flickering weakly, and in the window was my own face staring out at me but twisted, smiling with teeth that weren't mine, and a hand reached out and pressed against the glass, holding up a new sign. Stop here and wake up, or keep driving and become him. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down, because the second I saw that face, I realized something terrible. I had been seen, not just by the things on the road, but by the thing behind it, the thing that built this highway out of bone and dust and memory. And now it wanted to wear me like it wore the others. I drove harder, faster, my knuckles white on the wheel, and the roar of wind outside growing into a chorus of screaming faces. And just before the next mile marker, I saw another billboard written in wet red letters. You are not the first. You will not be the last. And underneath, in smaller text, almost hidden, do not look at your reflection after mile 111. I checked the odometer. I was 3 miles away. The road had gone quiet again, but not the kind of quiet that soothes. It was hollow, like something had sucked all the life out of the desert around me. Even the wind had stopped, and the stars above were frozen, too still, too perfect, like painted dots on a backdrop. I watched the odometer slowly roll closer to the number I was dreading, 111 miles into this stretch of cursed highway, and my breath grew shallow because I remembered the message, the one smeared in red beneath the billboard. The warning that wasn't numbered but felt more important than any rule before it. Do not look at your reflection after mile 111, and the worst part was that I didn't know what would happen if I did. I only knew that I would, because once something like that is in your head, it festers, it whispers, it waits. The temptation rides next to you like a passenger, grinning quietly. I passed 110, the numbers on the dash ticking over with painful patience, and my eyes kept drifting to the side mirror, even though I told myself not to, even though I knew better, even though every nerve in my body screamed not to give in. And when the numbers hit 111, I swear the truck slowed down on its own, just enough for the silence to press harder against my eardrums, and for a flicker to pass in the mirror. Just one flicker of movement that I didn't recognize, something in the back seat, something that shouldn't be there. I held my breath, gripped the wheel, focused on the road, but curiosity has teeth, and I bit down on my lip to stop myself, but it wasn't enough. I glanced, just a sliver of a glance at the mirror, and I saw myself, but not me, not really. The face was mine, but wrong. The eyes were dark holes, and the mouth was open wider than it should be, stretching down the jaw like skin peeling away, and it was smiling, not in fear or warning, but in triumph. Like it had been waiting for me to break this rule, and now it was free. I looked away fast, but something had already shifted. The inside of the cab felt smaller, the shadows longer, and my own reflection on the windshield started to linger even when I looked away. I turned my head, and it didn't. It just stayed there, watching me with its hollow face and slack grin. And then it started to move, slowly mimicking everything I wasn't doing. Its hands twitching on an invisible wheel, its mouth mumbling silent words I couldn't hear. And I couldn't close my eyes because the road had started to shift again, the asphalt turning to something soft and dark like old velvet or damp earth. And I needed to stay awake, stay sharp, because now it was driving with me, not beside me, but inside. Riding the same thoughts, whispering suggestions I almost mistook for my own voice. And I reached for the radio just to feel like I was still in control, turned the dial. But instead of music or static, I heard a voice, calm and distant, like it was coming through water. It has your face now. All it needs is your name. I turned it off, gritted my teeth, focused ahead, but the reflection on the windshield didn't go away. It grew clearer, more real, until I could see the sweat on its brow and the way it blinked out of rhythm with me. I passed mile 112, and it laughed, a sound that echoed inside the truck, not from outside, not from the speakers, but from the air itself. And I knew the mirror had done more than show me something. It had opened something, and I had let it in. Not all the way, not yet, but it was here now, riding in the seat beside me like a shadow stitched to my skin. I didn't speak, didn't think. I just repeated the rule in my mind like a prayer that had come too late. Do not look, do not look, do not look. But it was too late, and now I think it knows my name. Because when the next sign came into view, cracked and flickering in the windless air, it didn't just say, keep driving. It said, we see you, my name. And I hadn't spoken it aloud, hadn't told anyone, but it was there on the sign, glowing faintly, as if the road had heard the fear in my breath and carved it into stone. I pressed the pedal harder, trying to outrun it, but you can't outrun your own face. And I knew deep down that whatever this road was doing to me, it wasn't finished. I don't remember the last time I blinked, or how long I've been driving now. The miles don't make sense anymore. The markers went from numbers to symbols, then to nothing, just bare black signs standing like grave markers on the edge of the road, and the stars above me have begun to move on their own, rearranging into eyes, watching from every direction, blinking in unison whenever I think about stopping. I've lost track of time. My body aches like it's been stuck in one position for weeks, and the reflection on the windshield hasn't moved for hours, just sits there smiling with a mouth that keeps stretching wider, like it's waiting for something, daring me to speak first. I tried to turn off the engine once, just for a second, to catch my breath, but the key snapped off in the ignition the moment I touched it, and then the dashboard lit up with one word, flashing in red. No. The air in the cab is thick now, humid and rotten, like a crawl space that's been sealed for years, and something is growing in the vents. I can smell it, wet, fungal, something that breathes when I'm not looking. I passed a second version of myself a few miles back, or maybe hours back. I don't know anymore. He was standing in the middle of the road, identical clothes, same hat, same scar on my hand, but he was screaming without sound, mouth open wide, pointing at his chest where something was carved in deep, over and over, a word I couldn't read, and before I could stop, he disappeared into the dark under my tires like mist. No thump, no weight, just gone, like he was never real. And maybe he wasn't. Maybe I'm not. Maybe this road is eating pieces of me, replacing them with something else, something that knows how to drive but doesn't know how to feel. I passed what looked like a house made of headlights and mirrors, and every window showed a different version of my past. Me as a child crying in a hospital room, me at a gas station staring at a lottery ticket, me standing over a hole I didn't remember digging. And one window showed me, sitting in this truck, on this road, staring at that house, And in that moment, I felt something watching through me. Like I wasn't the driver anymore, just a lens, a temporary shell. And then I saw it, the final sign, tall and broken, slanted like it had been punched into the ground by something massive and angry. And on it were the words I didn't want to see, words I prayed would never come. Mile 0. Turn off your headlights. Do not breathe. I didn't even think. I couldn't think. I just did it, reached out and flicked the lights off, and instantly the world around me vanished. Total black, like I'd been buried alive. And I held my breath, counting seconds. 1, 2, 3. And then I heard it. A voice behind my eyes. Not in my ears, not in the truck, but deep inside my skull, speaking with my voice and my father's voice, and something older, something that had never lived. You've reached the end. You may exit the vehicle. I don't remember stopping. I don't remember the truck turning off, but suddenly I was standing outside of it, the engine silent, the cab empty, and the road behind me had collapsed into a pit of writhing shadows, things reaching out with arms made of smoke and faces that flickered like static. And in front of me was a door, not part of a building, just a door standing alone, covered in locks and strange markings. And one by one, the locks clicked open, even though I hadn't touched them, and something behind that door was breathing slow and deep, something that had been waiting for someone to finish the drive, to survive the rules. And I realized then that the rules weren't for me. They were for it. They were to keep it contained, and by surviving, by following them, I had unknowingly completed the ritual. I had delivered myself to the threshold, and now the final choice was mine. I could walk through that door, give in, let it take whatever it needed from my soul, or I could run, back to the truck, back down the road that no longer existed. And I did the only thing I could think to do. I turned around, climbed back into the cab, and I drove, without headlights, without breath, without thought, until the sky began to lighten, and the road beneath me turned back to asphalt, real asphalt, chipped and faded and full of life again, and the mirrors were empty, and my reflection was mine, and the cab no longer smelled of rot, and there was a mile marker ahead. Mile 1. Somehow I'd made it back, or maybe it let me go, or maybe I'm not the same me anymore. Maybe I'm just what came back wearing my skin. And if that's true, if that thing on the other side of mile 0 is still watching, then I don't have long. I've been talking to you because you need to know. Route 191 is not just a road, it's a test, a trap, a feeding ground. And if you ever find yourself on it at night, and you see the first rule written on the back of a fuel receipt or scratched into the side of your rig, don't ignore it. And whatever you do, don't break the 7th rule. Because once you've seen mile 0, it's already seen you, and it never forgets a face. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. But be careful, some stories leave a mark. If you want more tales like this, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. And hey, if you've ever driven Route 191 at night, you might already be part of the story. Keep that between us. Don't tell anyone, especially not your reflection.